Like the man who said, I want an unbiased history of the Civil War, written from a Southern viewpoint. We want it like we want it. And when we hear that word, that God doesn't let us down, then our living takes on a different perspective. Our giving takes on a different perspective. We don't give to curry God's favor. We don't give out of some little pseudo self-sufficient economic scheme that we have dreamed up. We give because we've got our priorities right. We give in the spirit of first fruits. We give in the spirit of the widow's mite. And by the way, don't any of you give what the widow gave to this campaign. Please don't do that. She gave everything. Your church wouldn't know what to do with it if that happened. The second place, I hear in the death and life and resurrection of Jesus Christ, not only that God is a God who in his providential purpose is dependable and won't let us down, I hear also the word that God is in the business of running a moral universe, and he's a God of justice, and he's holding us accountable. But he won't let us off. And most time when we hear that, we couch it in negative terms. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get caught. Flip it over in your mind just a minute. You don't hold people accountable unless you think you can trust them and believe in them, do you? Some of you have supervisory positions, and you have people that you entrust things to, and you're depending on them, and you believe in their capabilities. God has paid us the highest and the holiest compliment ever we could have in that he's given us this world, these resources, and he said, I'm depending on you as my children. And when we hear that word, living takes on a different perspective. When we hear that word, our giving is a chance to show how responsible and how accountable we are with what God has blessed us with. Now, some of you are going to need an excuse not to participate in this campaign or not to give what you're capable of giving. If you just can't come up with a good enough excuse, see me. I've got 6 pages of excuses that I've gathered in the last 20 years. I'm not going to give you one, I'll sell you one. If you just want a little old puny excuse that everybody uses, they don't cost very much. But if you want an almost original that's only been used one time, it's going to cost you. And we're going to put all that money in your capital fund. But you know what? After we give all of our excuses, we're like Moses. He said he couldn't go back to Egypt and lead the people to the promised land because he had a stammer in his tongue. He had killed an Egyptian soldier. He had to stay there and tend to his father-in-law's herds. And God kept saying, in effect, what's that in your hand? And that's what he says to each one of us, to take what's in our hand and glorify him and continue the ministry of the church. Then finally, I hear in the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, not only that God won't let us down, he won't let us off, but he won't let us go. He just keeps on loving us. And that's why we keep on as a church. We keep on singing, we keep on praying, we keep on serving, we keep on teaching, we keep on working and giving because we've been caught up in this self-giving agape love. There are 3 stories in the 15th chapter of Luke, I think it is, that illustrate this. There's a story of a woman who lost a coin, found it and called in her neighbors and they had a party. There's a story of a shepherd who lost a sheep, went out and found the sheep, bound up its wounds, put it back in the sheepfold and celebrated with the other shepherds. There's a story of a son who grew angry with the restraints of home, went out and squandered his part of the resources, came back with his pretty little speech made up, and his father met him out in the front yard and said, I knew you couldn't make it. I knew you'd have to come crawling back and ask for my help. Now get out and act like one of my hired hands, and maybe one day I'll accept you back as a son. Been a long time since you read the scripture if you'd settle for that version of it this morning. You know that isn't the way it happened. My son was dead and he's alive, he was lost and he's found. Put a ring on his finger, put a robe on him, put shoes on him. If he'd have been here in eastern North Carolina, he'd say, let's have a pig picking. My son is home. And there's a strong, unmistakable implication that that's the way God is about us. And it's that kind of never-ceasing, reaching out, hound of heaven, as Francis Thompson put it, love that identifies the genuine church. So that our giving is not a chore. Our giving is not some dreary obligation. Our giving is not paying for our membership. Our giving is not paying for our salvation. It's simply an affirmation that we've been caught up in this self-giving love that God has touched our lives with. Let me illustrate what I've been trying to say by a silly little old story. Bradley came down to breakfast one morning. He handed his mother a note that said, "Dear Mother, you owe to Bradley for cleaning up his room $5, for mowing the lawn $6, for washing the car $6, for doing my homework $3, for babysitting with my baby sister $2, and down to the bottom, for just being a good boy $1." His mother thanked him for his list, sent him on off to school. He came in that afternoon, played for a while. She called him into the evening meal, and he ran around to where he normally sat, and there, neatly stacked by his plate, was the money that he demanded. And he grabbed it up and began to grin. He thought, "Golly, this works. I'm going to send a bill every month." And then he looked down, and there on the other side of his plate was a note to him. "Dear Bradley, you owe to Mother for bringing you into the world nothing, for nursing you through that long illness nothing, for being sure that you have a nice home nothing, for being sure that you have nice clothes and well-balanced meals." On and on her list went, as any of you mothers could have written it, till it filled up the front and the back of the page. And the last line on the back page was, "For just loving you, Bradley, nothing." He looked at that list, and he looked at his little old fist clenched on his money. Tears began to puddle up in his eyes, and he ran around the table, pushed the money into his mother's hand, grabbed her around the waist, and said, Mommy, I want to love you and do things for you for nothing, too." And it doesn't matter whether we're 2 or 102. The only appropriate response to God's lavish love is to love him. Amen.